Hello Outriders, this is Ravenspire, coming to you with a latest dev update about the game. As you can see on this page, we have basic posts and such over here on Reddit. As you can see, we will go over it. There's several points, of course you have the other helpful links, but let's get started on what we have here. Basically, it says, hello everyone, we would like to thank everyone in the Outriders community for your patience, support, and assistance. Everyone on the Outriders team is continuing to work hard on improving the game, and we'd like to share news about things we are focusing on. Please use below index to jump. Please use the below index to jump to the things they're most interested in. And of course, we have the patch news, community appreciation package, inventory wipes and restoration, rebalancing, multiplayer stability and connection, launch connectivity postmortem. So let's go ahead and cover the patch notes first, shall we? Alright, here under the patch notes we can see we have basic stuff on the first patch. They don't have a set schedule on the patch, as you can see under first patch. They said they want to have it out sooner, so they're not setting a hard date, but the expected date is sometime next week. They're just basically using the rest of this week to identify as many severe issues as possible and fix them and get them in this patch. But basically what we can expect in the first patch notes is mostly the re-enabling of crossplay, stability improvements and matchmaking services, and several crash fixes on for several different things, including crash for the bad days, where the crashes were occurring because of Spanish settings, and some other random crashes. They're also fixing the HUD disappearing, the inventory wipe problem when you're multiplayer, the interference with respawning in expeditions during multiplayer, bug fixes when players get stuck in the geometry. I have not experienced most of these bugs, I should say, but from what I've read, a lot of people have, so that's very good. They're changing the default matchmaking to closed, so you will have to, if you want to be in an open team, you'll have to set it to open yourself manually. But the change is this will prevent players from joining AFK lobbies, and this will also improve the matchmaking wait times and stuff like that. And there are many other minor fixes and improvements. And another thing that myself personally on PC, fixing performance issues with the GPU not being fully utilized, which has been a major issue, if I will say myself, with especially in DX11 and 12. Despite the fact that I have most of my settings either high or on ultra, I'm still noticing aliasing going on, so that's something of an issue, but hopefully that'll be fixed with this next update. Next, let's go ahead and cover this community appreciation package. Basically, they're disappointed that after 5 years they ran into all that major connectivity issues over the weekend, which I know a lot of us have had an issue with and stuff like that, myself included. I had plans to start streaming the game on the 1st, but I don't think I was able to stay connected more than 2 hours tops, and it just got frustrating after a while, and I know for many others that was the same issue, but a lot of people were able to stay connected at times, but they had that very long 6-hour outage. I think it was either Friday night or Saturday. It was one of the two. But yeah, we had a very long outage. But for all those who aren't part of it or who want to know, from March 31st to April 11th UTC, so that's roughly, for most people in the States, that'll be April 1st to, let's see, March 31st, will probably be from April 1st to, let's see, maybe a little after midnight on April 11th. I haven't exactly said the times they're ending this, so it'll probably be about my time, which is Central US, between let's see, 5 and 6 in the morning. That would cut off for anybody, for me in the Central US. But that will be the window. Players outside the window will get an automatic inventory wipe restoration, are also eligible. So, basically what will happen is your highest character level will receive a level appropriate legendary weapon, a level appropriate amount of titanium, and the frustrated emote, which is currently unattainable in the game, but if you were part of this, you would get this emote. So that's cool that they're doing that. Now let's go ahead and cover on the inventory wipe restorations. We believe that the rate of this bug appearing should be greatly reduced once the upcoming patch has been published. With crash fixes in place, we intend to run a one-off mass restoration. Here are our intentions for this restoration. Restoration should take place on a specific day and should be a one-time event. The exact date is TBC, but we're hoping for this to occur in the coming weeks. We will update you when we have confirmation of the time of date and timings. We will only be able to restore most valuable tiers of items lost, e.g. epics and legendaries. We will be unlikely to restore an inventory full of blue gear. So if you had an inventory full of blue gear, you probably won't be able to get that. But the epics and legendaries are a different story. The restoration should be additive to your inventory. It should not replace your current inventory. Restored items may not have the that B should not be there, but basically don't expect your restored items to have the same exact stats when you lost them. So there's a bit of a compromise there. Note that the restoration will not be possible for items that were acquired but were where the game connection was terminated before an autosave could complete, as those items would never have made it into our server inventory hour logs. Such suspended autosaving is noticeable when the yellow autosave icon stays active for a longer period of time. Okay. For any individual restorations that were missed or that occur in the future, we plan to equip our teams to help on an ad hoc basis. So in other words, they're going to give more tools for their GMs and stuff to be able to restore people. Please note that our intentions that we are providing here for transparency. While we try our hardest to make things right, we unfortunately cannot make guarantees for specifics of the above or the timeline of this, as we may run into technical difficulties that delay our work. The accolades wipe issue is something we're again looking into, where we can run as part of such a one-off restoration, or whether we will need to tackle these cases on a one-to-one basis. Accolades are more complex pieces of data per profile than a piece of equipment, so working through a solution here is taking a little more time. Okay, so that's good to know. They're being very transparent, which is very, very, very desired out of this team. So we will see what happens. So let's go ahead and go over this, the postmortem here. Let's see. Well, this is not the postmortem. This is the rebalancing. This rebalancing work can be implemented through back-end updates, but does not require a patch and will be run during today's maintenance window. Oh, so everybody who's been hugging the bullet mods or bullet powers are probably not going to be happy. I'm one of them, but honestly, I could tell those skills needed a nerf. They're too powerful. It honestly makes it makes it where your entire skill bar requires one power constantly, and that's just no bueno. So, general balance notes. Well, let's go ahead and start with rebalancing. This is rebalancing work can be implemented, of course. Important. Balancing is done by a separate team to those who are working hard on preparing the patches. Rebalancing does not impact our progress towards patches or reduce our ability to resolve bugs. Okay, so the bug working team and the balance team are two separate teams. I know a lot of people always sit there and bitch, moan, complain that devs devote too much resources to one thing, but this is one thing I always say, is like every development has teams that do specific things in the team. There's some overlap, but most of the time it's like, You have a couple guys that are focused on, like, say, the art assets. Then you have a couple guys that focus on, like, new terrain. Then the weapons team, then the balance team, and so on and so forth. It's something I always talk about on the regular. But anyways, general balance notes. Historian, Bounty Hunt, and Monster Hunt quests no longer grant legendary items for each subsequent completion. Okay, while rewarding players for completing all Historian, Bounty Hunt, and Monster Hunt quests is still our intention, we did observe unintended results when players repeated this activity in combination with a specific multiplayer bug. With this rewards adjustment, we want to eliminate this exploit behavior while still making the quest line worth the effort. Players who took advantage of this exploit will not be punished. Okay, so, I mean, it's an unintended thing, so that's understandable. Adjusted loot on specific enemies. Tuka Beast, Split Tooth, Sand Shifter, and Cold Claw. These particular beasts are being too generous considering the required effort to take them down. And that's understandable. As I said, balancing is always going to be a thing. It's probably going to upset a number of people, but I understand it. Chem Plant. Expedition time for gold, silver, bronze adjusted to 650, 1150, and 1500 seconds. So, let's see, 1500 seconds would be, let's see, seconds would be 3, 10. Okay, so that's almost, I'm bad at math right now, I don't feel like mathing. But that's a good amount of time. You got at least, let's see, 10 minutes would be 6. 15 minutes would be 12. 900, I think. I'm doing the math wrong, so yeah. 900, 1200 would be 20 minutes, I think, and 1500 would be 25 minutes. So yeah, that's a generous amount of time to do something. Anyways, Boomtown Expedition. Okay, some expeditions seem to be too generous in their required completion times when compared to others. We want to avoid such disproportionate discrepancies, as we believe making all expeditions viable leads to a more diverse and thus more interesting endgame, which I agree with, because the thing, like with MMOs, it's like, if the raids or dungeons were not balanced right, people always gravitate to the easier stuff over the harder stuff, or what is perceived harder, or what is perceived to be take longer, or waste your time, or any of that. It's like, to use World of Warcraft as an example, from the Wrath of the Lich King, the RP dungeons, as you would call them, where you had to wait for an NPC to do something, were hated because of that. People just want to get in and go and end it. That's it. So those dungeons were just not desired. Anyways, critical rating damage multiplier on tactical assault rifle reduced to 165%. Previously it was 175%. Critical rating damage multiplier on marksman rifle reduced to 250. Previously 300. Marksman rifles with 300% crit rate showed up to be dominating multiple crit builds. By making the modifier the same as the bolt action rifle, we want to offer players more options when choosing what gun to use, which is always a good thing because options are nice. I hate it when games sit there and say gun X is useless. This is a problem I had in Fallout 76. You were kind of forced to go to a certain gun in the game if you wanted to stay competitive, and it sucked. Anyways, let's see. Duration of Massacre AP buff has been reduced to 3 seconds. This is a temporary measure until we can have fixed an issue with stacking cap. Okay, so that's only temporary, so don't worry about that. Bullet abilities, Twisted Round, Blighted Rounds, and Volcanic Rounds. This one is probably going to be where there's going to be a lot of raging, but as I said, I could feel it in my bones. This was going to be nerfed in the future, or rebalanced, or whatever, because, let's face it, bullet skills are overpowered in the game. If it's required to be on your bar to have a competent build, there's a problem, and I've always said this, and it always pisses me off when the player base sits there and says, just balance everything around that, because then you just can start a loop cycle. Instead of fixing a problem, the problem just gets worse and worse and worse, and the game either becomes easier or the enemy's too tough for low-level people, etc., etc., etc. Anyways, let's go on. While we fully intend to provide the overpowered feel for the best builds out there, we also committed to making sure that there is build diversity in top-performing builds. Exactly. Late in the demo lifecycle, we discovered a bug with regards to bullet augmentation abilities damage calculation formula. While we fixed this bug, some unforeseen imbalances were unfortunately introduced, which has led to bullet-based abilities vastly overperforming other skills. The main problem with this is that such bullet-based skills require much less investment to make them top tier compared to other builds. Anybody who played Technomancer or a Trickster knows this, because yeah. To achieve this, we have made a couple of adjustments for the Trickster and Technomancer classes who benefit the most from their bullet ability power. It's uncertain as to whether these changes will prove too strong or too weak, so please do consider this to be only the first step. We will continue monitoring and adjusting them in the future. Just like you, we hope to see more inspiring and crazy combinations of abilities and mods. I mean, I was testing out last night a ice build and I enjoyed it a lot. But because the toxic bullet is so strong on the Technomancer, I just couldn't do it. So hopefully this will change my mind, because I'm starting to include firepower into my gear setup. Base cooldown, the Twisted Round skill has increased to 25 seconds, previously 16 seconds. While infinite uptime on bullet abilities was always our intention, it is intended to be a high-risk, high-reward playstyle. However, given the current power of this skill, there is very little risk involved in this ability given its short cooldown. Even when players fail to trigger ammo replenishment, increasing its cooldown in combination with adjusting its damage should increase the risk and make this playstyle a more thrilling experience. The Trickster's Hero Tree Node, Disruptive Firepower, Scion of Power, Outrider Executioner have had their power reduced to 35%, previously 50%. The combination of Twisted Rounds increased firepower on top of the multipliers provided by the class tree led to huge increases of damage dealt by this ability. While we do understand the satisfaction of this kind of power can bring, it is currently vastly overperforming our wildest expectations, and we therefore need to bring it down a notch, which, yes, I agree with. Vulnerable status, power reduced to 15%, previously 25%. Yeah. The Technomancer Hero Tree Node damage against poison had its power reduced to 15%, previously 30%. Yeah, I can understand that. While the Technomancer's Blighted Rounds do not provide any damage increase on their own, other than ignoring armor as anomaly damage, they do provide an excellent tool for spreading the vulnerable and toxic statuses, which in turn can scale out of proportion. Pyromancer Hero Tree Nodes. Trial of Ashes has been reduced 15% extra damage, previously 30%. So, people are going to rage about this. There's no doubt about it. I guarantee you there's videos already going up on that are already up or going up at the time of this video being created that are going to be raging against it. But balance is required, and if every non-Devastator build, and to the point that people are demanding a Devastator get the bullet skill, is going on, then there's a problem in the skill, and unfortunately players refuse to see things like this. The skill is overpowered, and this is a step in the right direction and was needed. Alright, on the connectivity postmortem, let's see, our team worked throughout the Easter weekend and around the clock to resolve the server issues players were experiencing. We completely understand how frustrating this experience will have been, especially given the huge amount of players eagerly anticipating the launch. We had enough server scaling capacity, but our extremely externally hosted database was seeing issues that only appeared at extreme loads. We're committed to full transparency with you today, just as we have been over the past year. So, we won't give you the expected server demand was too much for us. We were in fact debugging a complex issue with why some metric calls are bringing down an externally hosted database. We did not face this issue during the demo launch earlier this year. Our database is used to hold on to everyone's gear, legendary profile, and progression. Tech-heavy insight. Basically what they're saying is the servers were ready, their database and connection systems were not. So that's good to know, and basically it's kind of expected at this point and stuff like that. So overall, that's just the basics that we were kind of expecting, and yeah. So as I said, I'm going to expect a lot of YouTube posts are going to be gnashing their teeth, or there's going to be some outrage posts about the updates and stuff like that going forward with the rebalanced bullet skills. But as I've said, the bullet skills were overpowered in my mind, and they definitely needed to change them, because if I felt like I was required to have the bullet skill on my bar in order to do anything within the game context, and I felt like I was being forced into the pestilence tree as a technomancer to begin with. Hopefully these changes will make things a little less requirement, but I'm probably still going to lean on it for a little bit because I want to be a sniper for a while. But until I can get into the game and test things out, we will see. But until then, I hope everybody has a good day and be safe out there, and I'll catch you on the flip side.